Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Accountants Therapy MTD Together software webinar series. So today we're kindly joined by Simon of Patma. So hello, Simon.
Hello.
Fantastic. Now, we have got quite an exciting lineup today with what Patma have got to unveil for their MTD product and with their roadmap. Bit of housekeeping. So, this webinar is being recorded. It will be sent out via Eventbrite link that if you signed up beforehand, and we will be publishing the YouTube video in due course as soon as we can get it edited. Please ask any questions in the Q&A boxes if you can. That really helps us on the panel see which questions need to be answered. But the chat box is open. If anybody is available, quickly pop a message in the chat box just to double check that for me. Other than that, we're going to get straight into it because Simon has got a lot of cool stuff to show us today. So Simon, over to you.
Cool. Thank you very much, Tom. It's fantastic to be here and joining Accountants Therapy on the webinar today. I suspect not many people here know me particularly or know much about me or my MTD journey. So I'm going to start off with a little bit of background on those things really. So I'm Simon Pither, and I have been a landlord for over 20 years. And that was sort of helped and started by my career, which has been in software. And I've been building software for over 30 years, which is quite a scarily long time. But anyway, from that, or sort of alongside those two things existing, I first created Patma for my own use. And that was about 15 years or so ago. So it has existed for quite a long time. But as my career progressed and changed, in the end, I decided to take Patma and turn it into a product and a tool for all landlords. And that happened around 8 years ago. And from there, obviously, there was talk and noise about making text digital. And as a big part of Patma was keeping track of finances and things for landlords, I then started working with HMRC on making text digital, and that was circa 5 years or so ago. The first making text digital code in Patma was added in early 2021, and Patma was first approved by HMRC for making text digital back in 2023, and back then the process involved an online interview where I ran through a demo of Patma, and they were actually on the other end. There's multiple people from HRC on the other end watching the API calls in real time to actually make sure that the software was sending the right things to them. They were tracking that in that sort of environment and process before we could be approved. So I think the processes are quite different for new software coming on now.
I'd love to know what they're doing now, actually, to get on that list and what needs to be done because we have
Yeah,
heard.
I think they've changed their criteria over the years. In fact, I know they've definitely changed the criteria over the years. I don't actually know what their latest criteria is because, of course, we went through the process earlier on. But that first process was that sort of interview and things. But then we had to sort of get reapproved later on, and that later process, you say, did include needing to have at least a couple of customers making submissions in order to be able to get onto that sort of recognized list. So yeah, so obviously we've been through that, but yeah, I don't know what the current process is. So that's a little bit of sort of my background and Patma's background and how we came to be where we are. And me personally, I'm generally a fan of automation and streamlining processes and sort of the use of technology, which I know some people are less keen on these things, but that's sort of where I'm coming from in the software that I create. I like to help make people work more efficiently. I'm slightly less keen on sort of the computers replacing the people, but I'm keen on it helping the people. And along with that, and I say this with full knowledge, it may make me slightly unpopular, but I sort of see making text digital as kind of a good thing for landlords. I think it's I mean it itself and sort of sending the extra data to HMRC and things, I can understand that being less popular. But overall, it helps bring people into more modern technology, into digitizing their systems, and into discovering a more efficient way to work. So that's sort of my positive
I look
spin.
forward to the pitchforks in the comments section from the accountants of old. But yeah, I
Yes.
think that's the thing. It's better to talk about the positives as well as the negatives. And you are right. For some people, it is going to really benefit them and bring them up to date. Are you seeing that in your client base that they are, maybe finding that they've not been on top of things in the past, they've benefited from having this?
Oh, very definitely, very definitely. It's the making text digital part is sort of what pushes them to the right place. But then, yes, once they discover all the other benefits that come with using software, particularly a dedicated landlord software for landlords, then when they're doing everything else, that gets easier and they know exactly where their documents are and they don't start forgetting renewals when they come up and stuff. Yeah, it's
Hmm.
definitely quite eye-opening, I think, for a lot of people when they discover how much easier life can be. So the next thing I wanted to mention really was sort of around some of the stuff that is more landlord specific. I mean, I know the audience today really is primarily accountants, and I will obviously get on to accounting stuff in a moment. But Patma is obviously suitable for landlords. It's not suitable for anyone else really. It's only suitable for landlords, and it's suitable for all landlords. But I would say it's perfect for self-managing landlords. So it's organized in a landlord friendly way with language that landlords too much of a tongue twister there sort of understand. And of course, as we just mentioned, sort of helps to streamline all of the landlord related processes, obviously including the bookkeeping elements of it. So I will um, mention sort of a list of things now, really, I think that sort of help landlords more widely. I don't think I'm going to have time to demo these or to look at these. So I'm just going to sort of mention them in passing, really. So we have built-in rental processes and checklists, including for starting a new tenancy, which includes collecting, sending, and getting e-signatures for proof of compliance documents, tenancy contract building, inventory creation, obviously complete with photos and things like that, automated emails to council tax departments to tell them that new tenants have moved in, and also similar for utility companies, and lots more. And that's just the new tenancy checklist. We already provide rental price comparables to help with pricing of properties in areas. And with the new Renters' Rights Act coming in and the enhancements we're adding for that, we're also going to be enabling sort of snapshots of these rental comparables for evidence if you need those to if anything's challenged later on. And looking sort of beyond starting tenancies, then landlords can also manage all of their maintenance tasks, complete with handoff to suppliers where trusted tradespeople are involved so they can directly book appointments with tenants, things like that. Tenants themselves can access a tenant portal and access all the tenancy information and documents and contracts and what have you, as well as messaging the landlord and raising maintenance issues themselves, adding photos to issues and things where they're needed. Um, we'll also sort of quite specifically coming up soon be automating the notice that landlords must send out to tenants in May as part of the Renters' Rights Act changes. So there's sort of quite a bundle of things that we do, and of course this is just a few things I picked out to
Hmm.
mention. Um, but they're all, as you say, sort of really appreciated by the landlords because it just makes life easier and quicker and simpler for them in doing the day-to-day management stuff that's related to property.
You really weren't exaggerating when you said that this was built for landlords by a landlord. You know, when you said about self-managing landlords, I was wondering what you meant by that. And then hearing all of that, I mean, this is a great solution for someone that wants to run the whole thing themselves without using an estate agent, for example. Yeah, I mean, how long does it? How much time do you have to spend throughout the year staying on top of all the changes in compliance for landlords? Is that quite a big part of it compared to like the coding and the software side?
Yeah, oh, definitely, yes. I mean, have a small team working on Patma these days, but a huge amount of what I do personally is actually staying on top of the compliance changes
Mm.
and how that's going to affect what the software needs to do. I mean, this year is an unusual year because we've got the Renters' Rights Act coming in, which obviously has been brewing for a few years, but it's actually being implemented this year. And a lot is changing relating to that. So the whole sort of tenancy setup process, there are numerous changes throughout that we need to implement. Contracts are all changing. We've got this one-off announcement that all landlords must send to all tenants in May, telling them about the contractual differences. Um, so yeah, yeah, I could go on, but most of the people listening to this are probably not that interested in in those
You and I will have
details.
another webinar another day because that'll find it quite interesting actually. Yeah, I think that's fantastic. It's great that you're doing that, and I'm gonna stop asking questions now and let you let you demo. Sorry.
No problem at all. No problem at all. Questions are good. So where was I? I need to work out what I was what I was planning to say next. Yeah, most people looking at this today are likely to be accountants and wondering about what they can find in the way of software for their clients. And that's what I'm sort of going to actually show you today. So let me just rearrange my windows very slightly so that I can hopefully share a screen with everyone. Sorry, bear with me. Too many buttons to press. Find the right screen. Has that appeared okay, Tom?
Yeah, that's good as gold.
Fantastic. Right. Okay. So this is sort of the home screen of Patma Property Manager, with a demo account with some properties in there. Obviously, all of this data is completely made up. There's nothing real or private or secret here, and it's on our staging system. And later on, when we connect to the HMRC system, that's using their sandbox as well. So that's also all made up pretend data. Now, our accountant dashboard isn't quite ready yet, so unfortunately I can't show you that today. But instead, what I will do is sort of jump into how a landlord walks through the system and how they can handle the accounting side of things, the bookkeeping particularly. And as part of that, I'll show how Patma supports some fairly complex sort of split ownership and also split property management situations as well. I will also go through sort of the MTD connection and submission process. I'm sure everyone watching has probably seen that quite a few times from different bits of software, and it will be very similar, but I'll do that just for completeness. But first of all, I want to start with just looking at recording some rent and expenses from a bank feed. Now, bank feeds aren't the only way to do this in Patma, but they are, of course, sort of one of the quickest and easiest ways to do it. You can add multiple bank feeds in Patma. There's only one in this demo account, but you can have multiples and you can process those all independently. So when you go into a new bank feed in Patma, the default view is just to see unprocessed transactions. And our expectation here is that a landlord is coming in here relatively frequently, probably at least monthly, to make sure that they're up to date, make sure they've received all of their rent and things like that. So we're never really expecting a large history of transactions here. Obviously, you can have a long list, you can process the more historic things, but yeah, we're expecting these to be relatively up to date. I've just got a few sort of example transactions in this demo account, which I thought I'd walk through to show you how some of them work. And first of all, unfortunately, as I'm sure people will agree, landlords often don't have separate bank accounts for their property transactions and property details. And hence sometimes some personal things can sort of creep into the bank feed. So Patma allows for that. And we're going to take this garden centre one, for example, as something that was personal and not really business related to the property. And in Patma, you can just click a little cross icon on that and it hides that transaction. Of course, if you click on something wrong, you can use the filters at the top to find those hidden transactions again and reprocess them if you need to. But we do support just getting them out of the way very, very easily, because obviously that does happen a lot. Now we've got some other expenses here. So we've got a couple of mortgage expenses, for example. Now the system has been made aware of the mortgages on the properties that are in here. So the bank feed has come in with an amount and a date and things, and the system has automatically matched that up to the pre-existing mortgage that it's aware of. So it knows the property, knows the supplier, obviously it knows the tax categorization for that already behind the scenes. So we don't need to set any of that at all. We just click, yep, that's matched okay, and then it's all recorded. And again, same for the other mortgage payment. Yep, that's all good, and that's all paid. Or not paid, sorry, recorded. Has already been paid, otherwise it wouldn't be in the bank feed. So we can also do similar for rent. So this top transaction we can see here that's left is a rent payment. So it's money in, we know the amount, we know the date, and the system knows what rent it's expecting. So again, it's proposed a match for us. And that's specifically for the Kensington property and this tenancy from Chris Jones. And if we're happy that that's a match, we can just click create rent payment, and that's all stored for us. There are obviously manual options. If the matching doesn't work, you can record rent payments manually. And I'll show you sort of a little bit of how that might work in just a second. So we've got this one at the bottom here, which is sort of an ad hoc expense. So we haven't got anything pre-expected in the system. So to record that, we can just click on that and walk through a simple expense form. So I think this was intended to be on the Kensington property. Choose our supplier, and oops, I can't type. And obviously put in a tax category. We can upload the document. Now, this is something where Patma has already received the document. So we can email these in. There's a sort of document inbox within Patma, or you can upload them from a web browser. You can upload them from a mobile web browser or from mobile apps. So these documents can come in from lots of different places, and you just sort of put them in as a dumping ground. But then when you're processing the transactions, you've got them here to choose from. And this is the invoice I think I want. So we can attach that to the expense and just save that, and it stores the expense, relates it to the bank transaction, and all the normal things you would expect with the appropriate tax categorization and stuff. Now, this last transaction I've got left is an example of a sort of mixed transaction. So it's money in and it's rent, but it's come from an agent. And in this particular case, this is an agent that's managing an HMO in this account. So that's a house of multiple occupation. So there's actually multiple tenancies in here, as well as some fees being deducted by the agent as well. So in this case, rather than just clicking on it and recording it as a single rent payment, we have an icon to split the transaction. We can click on that and it takes us into another page where we can now say we've actually got, room A is rent of 700, but then we've got another rent payment, and that was room B, because this is the two rooms that are currently let in this HMO. But then we've also got the fees. So we could enter them afresh here, but in this account, it's actually been set up to already know the fees that we're expecting. So we don't need to enter all the details again. We can just pick them from the list of expenses that we're expecting. And the system has added up the income and the outgoing and checks that it matches the bank transaction, which it does. So I can just click submit. And then we've got 2 rents recorded and an expense confirmed and attached to the bank feed all together. So with our transactions up to date, let's have a quick look at the Making Tax Digital process. So if I go into the tax section, now there is always a slight risk that the HMRC sandbox won't be working when I try and run through this, but hopefully this will all work. So Patma has been able to produce an SA105 return or figures for that return for a long time. So you can always do that as sort of a manual thing. But of course, for making text digital, we've got a different process involved. And this is our sort of current walkthrough. So start off by registering with HMRC. Obviously, this is from a landlord's point of view, the expectation that they would do that, but I know accountants can also do that on behalf of their clients as well. And once that's done, you need to connect to HMRC, and that's just done with a national insurance number to get started. So I have a fake one that I prepared earlier, which will hopefully work. There we go. It jumps us off to HMRC. Continue. We walk through that. Sign in. And again, this is all fake from their sandbox system. So we'll just log into this. There we go. We don't need to store that. And asks us for permission to connect to Patma. We can do that. And here we are, back at Patma. That was all the connection process required. Now, we're back at Patma, and the first thing we need to do is to tell Patma which landlord or landlords within the system are actually us for the transaction we should submit. And this account is set up with this sort of a relatively complex situation within it. So in the simplest case, of course, you'd have a landlord in Patma, and they would have their 100% owned properties, and they would be using all of that property income and expenses and stuff in their tax return to submit to HMRC. In a slightly more complicated case, you might have a husband and wife or something where they've got properties split between them, either 100% one property and then another property that's 50-50 or something. And Patma can cope with all of that just fine. You set the ownership individually on each property, and Patma will happily split all of the income and expenses and things as needed in proportion to those things. But Patma does also support much more complicated situations. So here I'm logged in as a landlord called Peter, and Peter has got a couple of properties that he manages and looks after himself within Patma. But he also jointly owns another property with his sister, Helen. And Helen looks after that property for them. And she does that in a separate Patma account with her own property portfolio as well. So Peter doesn't actually have direct access to those properties and those financial records. But instead, Helen has shared just that joint property with Peter. And that means that now Peter in his account can see and access that property and those records as well. So in this case, where we are here, Peter can say, yes, these are my properties in my portfolio in my account. But then I've also got this shared property, half of which is also mine. You can see there's 50% of this property. And he can say, yes, I also need to add this to my portfolio to be included and submitted to HMRC with my figures. Now, Peter isn't updating these records. These records will come directly from Helen's account. No one needs to double enter or repeatedly enter the details or copy and paste things or anything like that. They come directly from Helen's account where she's entering and storing that information, those transactions. And they just get combined with the ones that are directly from Peter's own account. So once we've defined our portfolio, we can click back across to Making Text Digital tab, and we can see the quarterly returns that we need to start making. Obviously, we're a bit behind on this one, but we can click on to review the first quarter, and you can see a list of all of the included transactions, and including the 50% that's come through from those properties from Helen, combined with the properties for Peter in his own account as well. So you've got all of that rent combined. You've also got expenses for the various categories where expenses exist. And then, as I know, the favourite phrase from Making Text Digital Therapy Group, we now are at the point where it is just one click to submit the quarterly submission. And there we go. That's one click after we've done all the hard work of recording all the transactions. The actual submission is just the one click, and we've got that done. Of course, once the submission's made, you can return to it. You can update the underlying transactions, resubmit the information back to HMRC if you need to provide updates at all. There is also tax calculation that you can optionally have a look at. The tax calculation on the HMRC sandbox site looks very ugly and has lots of weird stuff in it, so I'm not going to show you that today. But that calculation is there and is available if you need it. So while we are looking at the financial side of things, even though I think we've finished with the tax bit, I did just want to show a couple of quick reports that are available within Patma as well. So we've got one which is just sort of a nice overview of a property portfolio, shows sort of the history financially and sort of a status in terms of occupancy and things like that. Return on equity, this one's not doing very well, but gives you a bit of an idea. And then you can also dig in to more detailed profit and loss, and you can sort of slice and dice this a bit more on terms of different properties and different time periods and things like that as well. And then while we're in reports, one that's not quite so finance related, also got a nice compliance report specific for the landlords, so you can see what's good and what's not so good. So this on the gas safety certificate hasn't been recorded in the system yet. It's actually waiting in the document inbox, and this is obviously related to that gas check expense that we added earlier on. But yeah, that's just showing us currently expired on this overview.
Simon, could you show us all of those tabs? Because I've just spotted CGT and it's caught my eye. I'd love to know what that is all about.
So I can, in this demo account, they're probably going to look a bit ugly and there might be bits missing, but we can have a look. So CGT, the idea of this tab is to say, we know what you bought the property for, if you've entered that. We know its current value, if you've entered that. We know what mortgages you've got on it, if you've entered that. And therefore, we can do some analysis to say, if you were to sell it today at the value you're expecting, how much CGT would you be paying? And therefore, would you actually make any money or not afterwards?
Mm.
Because it is possible to end up, if you sort of extended borrowing on a property over years, it is actually possible to end up in a situation where you owe more CGT than there is equity left in the property. So it's sort of to just do that kind of analysis, so you can have an idea of
That's a
what you
that's a
get.
good feature. That's a really good feature because the amount of times that I get clients asking me, or normally I've sold the property, and I'm panicking then going, oh, 60-day report. But actually, if people have this information to hand, it might do some better informed decisions. So I quite like to look at that.
Yeah, it's yeah, the sort of mortgage analysis as well. As this one will look, I think, probably very ugly. Yes, there's, oh, I don't know. So mortgage analysis. What could you potentially borrow? Could you extend borrowing? What would it cost? Would you still make a profit based on the current rent and things like that? And then market rent is looking at comparables in the area. You need to define the type of property a bit more, which is why
Yeah,
everything's missing here. But then we say across your portfolio, you are potentially missing out on however much rent it might be for that. So, and obviously there's a note in here of when rent reviews can be made and things like that as well.
that looks good. Thank you.
Okay. So that's actually sort of the end of the. I'll come back to the compliance one just because actually maybe I'll stop this one because it looks prettier. So that's sort of the end of the demo bit. I've got a bit to say about roadmap and what we've got coming up, and also pricing details and things. But are there any questions? Is there anything else you'd like to
Well,
cover
whilst
before I
you were
do that?
doing the demo, I was putting in our little host and panelist chat questions I wanted to ask, and slowly as you've gone through the demo, I've had to delete them all because you covered them off. But I think the ones that we've had in the past that I'd like to know about is how easy is this to use on a smartphone? Would you suggest people use it on a desktop only basis, or can they use it on their smartphone if they need to?
So me personally, I prefer having a bigger screen, a bit more real estate to be able to work on things faster, basically.
Yeah.
However, with the exception of the quarterly submission, which must be done on a desktop, or maybe a mobile browser. haven't actually tested that. We should try that. But with that exception, everything else does work on a phone.
Mm,
So either in a mobile web browser, or in the mobile apps. Our mobile apps are currently available on Android, and the Apple one is in progress. That'll be out soon. But yeah, it all works on mobile
that's
if you
good.
need it to.
So I think it's a millennial thing, isn't it? You know, any big purchase, anything important, do it on your laptop rather than on your phone. But I've got a lot of clients that just will not use anything other than their smartphone. I don't even think
Yeah,
know if they use a
yeah.
desktop.
Yeah, I
That's
mean,
really
I've
good.
spoken to multiple landlord customers who say they exclusively use it on a phone, and
Mm.
yes, it surprises me, but yeah, there you go.
And when it comes to customer support, if I have a problem as a landlord or an accountant, who do I get in touch with and how do they get in touch?
So the best place to start is normally emailing us. We do have a phone number. You can phone us as well if you want to leave a message or whatever that way. Generally, the support people aren't actually answering the phones, but you can always get us a message, and we're always happy to book return calls to go through things, either phone or video calls. And the emails, something we're starting to do more and more at the moment is when inquiries come in, if they're something that would just work a bit better if we show you, we'll actually record little videos, little screencast videos, and send you back the video. But yeah, we're very happy to help. The support is all UK based, and if we need to jump on a call or video call, phone call, whatever, we will do that as well.
Cool. And do you have training videos online that people can access?
We have some. We're working on building out the training videos. We've got a sort of knowledge base, help document library, and we're also working on building out videos. So yeah, some, but we need more, and we're working on it.
Oh, lovely. No, that's it for me on questions. It's nice to see your boxing everything up as we go along. So, roadmap. I know you've got some exciting stuff to announce today. So, back to you.
Okay, so um, sorry, this is slides, and very nice and simple slides, but um, so I don't think there's very much on the roadmap per se. So perhaps the bottom bullet point on this one that's new or exciting, but more to be expected. So roughly speaking, in Q1, so obviously we've only got, I know, half or so of that left now, but we're expecting to have foreign property support finished and live before April. We will also have our agent accountant dashboard, obviously separated from agent of the letting kind, but we also plan to build in bulk transaction editing, because we have had some feedback from accountants that they would like the ability to go back and sort of fix things in bulk, where mistakes have been made. And currently we don't have those bulk editing, so we're going to have those ready as well this year. We're planning to have CGT support in pretty soon as well. That's one of the sort of earlier extra bits of tax support we're going to be having in. And then we are having the launch of our accountant pricing package, which I will talk more about in a moment. Moving on to Q2, we will be adding support for end of year returns. So this won't cover everything. And currently, our expectation certainly is if you have clients using an accountant, that you will be using other software to do the end of year return stuff as an accountant, and that Patma will be forming the in-year bookkeeping type functionality. But for some of our customers who don't use accountants, they really do want the end of year support as well. So we will be building that out, and we're hoping to have most of that built in Q2. And as I said, it won't support all income types, but hopefully we'll have a sort of good enough mix to cover most people. And then, as I mentioned earlier, in sort of intro bits, there's lots of Renters' Rights Act stuff that's coming through. Obviously, not very accounting and finance related, but it's going to be a big effect on us. And Patma, we've got a lot of changes to do in Q2 when the 1st of May rolls around, when the Renters' Rights Act kicks in. So that's going to be taking a lot of our time in Q2. And then also we've got a visual refresh for Patma, the user interface of it. This is something we've already started and we've sort of got going on in the background. We don't expect it to go live until Q2, but it's just we're not going to change anything drastic. We're not going to sort of start moving things around or releasing new versions or anything like that. It's just an update, just to clean things up a little bit and make things a little bit nicer for people. Now, before I move on to pricing, I'd just like to say a little bit about sort of my philosophy on these things. And I really like to be transparent and clear and as simple as I can be with pricing, particularly, I mean, with everything, in fact, but particularly with pricing. So everyone using Patma is on the same pricing structure. We don't have discounts for some people and not for others. We don't have um, sort of lower prices that we advertise that only last for a few months and then get bumped up or anything like that. It's just the price is the price, and it's just nice and simple. We do primarily market to landlords. So that does mean that we also advertise our prices inclusive of VAT, because generally speaking, landlords are not VAT registered. So hence I always feel it's a bit of a trick to say, here's the price. Oh, but you need to add an extra 20%. So so obviously for accountants that may well be VAT registered, you need to take the 20% off. But our prices are advertised with VAT included. So with that in mind, what are the prices? Well, we start with free. Can't get cheaper than that. This is only for one property, one tenancy, so we don't cover HMOs in this. It does include full Making Tax Digital support, including joint ownership and all that kind of thing. It does not include bank feeds though, so it is a sort of slightly harder data entry process for people. It doesn't include e-signatures or contracting or sort of that side of systems as well though. But people can still store all of their documents, get all their reminders, and do all of their core accounting requirements for one property. For slightly larger landlords or ones that want to take advantage of bank feeds, for example, then we do have the paid plan, and this starts at £15 per month, including VAT, of course. And this covers the first 5 rental units, we refer to them as, so that's basically tenancies. There is HMO support, so that could be 5 houses, or it could be one house with 5 rooms in it. Obviously, full Making Tax Digital support still. And at this point, there is also access for an accountant as well. So in the free one, you can't have extra users. So you can't share that account with an accountant. But in the paid plan, you can share that account with an accountant, and they can have full access to the transactions and make that digital side of things. And if you need more tenancies, it's just an extra £1.50 per month per extra tenancy or rental unit.
So I've got to ask a question now, and this might be a
Mhm.
technical one, so apologies, but I'm thinking of a real life example. I've got husband and wife, um, both MTD from April 2026. They've only got landlord income. So wife has got 3 properties, 2 of which are owned jointly with the husband. If she set up the license with Patma and had the £15 a month, she's got the 3 properties covered. The 2 properties that are jointly owned with the husband, you would do a transfer of info to his Patma account, and they could both file individually with their NI numbers through Patma on the one £15 per month license, or would you need to have 2 licenses for each individual? So 1 license for each individual, and the data can still transfer. How would it work?
So assuming that the husband and wife are happy to share their details, as in with the different properties and things, then it can all go in one Patma account. So the subscriptions are based on sort of the Patma account, and a Patma account can hold multiple landlords, so husband and wife. It can hold multiple properties, and each of those properties can be owned by different landlords within that same account. So yes, you could do all of that within the £15 per month if it's only up to 5 properties, and the 2 individuals can connect to different HMRC accounts and make different Making Tax Digital submissions.
Perfect. That answered that nicely.
Cool. Yeah, the scenario that I mentioned, that I talked through earlier, where you have also got one of them jointly owning a property with a sibling or something as well, then that would typically be in another separate account with a
Mm.
separate subscription. But yes, just husband and wife can all be in one, can all be included, and that's absolutely fine.
No, that sounds good.
Okay, so the last bit of sort of pricing I wanted to mention is actually something that's brand new. It's a accounts only version, and this is really an answer to a few questions I've had from accountants who want to be able to provide a landlord focused accounting solution to their clients, but they don't want the added complication of wondering how many tenancies they've got, or how the price might change or fluctuate and things like that. So this is our sort of answer to this, and it's not announced anywhere else yet. This is a preview announcement just for Accountants Therapy today, and it will actually be going live on our website probably in a couple of weeks or so. So you've got quite a bit of early warning on this one,
Mm.
but it's intended to be simple pricing with a simple structure. And as with everything else, we don't do pre-purchases, we don't do bundles or commitments for things that you're then not using. It's just buy the ones that you need and just pay for what you're using each month. So the price for this is just going to be £9 per month per Patma account. So within a Patma account, as I mentioned before, that was actually quite a good prompt from you. Thank you. That can include multiple people and can include multiple properties, just as long as they're all sharing that data among themselves. And it does include VAT, of course. So it's £7.50 plus VAT if you want the
Mm.
ex-VAT version. There can be unlimited number of properties in here, tenancies, full making tax digital support for multiple people, as long as they're sharing that information among themselves. Support all the split ownership and management and accounting arrangements or account arrangements, sort of to pull in from other accounts if you need to as well. Bank feeds are in there. Obviously, the sort of property focused or tenancy landlord focused approach is there with all the language and things, so it's appropriate for landlords to be able to use it easily. And the other sort of main restriction is that it won't include some of the things outside accounting. So everything accounting related will be in there, but some of the more compliance and contract related stuff won't be included in these packages. And that's how we've restricted the pricing to keep it really
Mm.
simple for that one price, regardless of how many properties are in the system.
That's exciting. I think that's brilliant. So you clearly are getting ready for MTD with this, and that's the focus. And um, what's the feedback been from accountants so far?
So I think generally positive, with the caveat that quite a lot of them have said that pricing is a bit complicated, even though we try to keep it as simple as we can. It still seems that it's a bit more complicated than they want to get into. Hence this new pricing. That's been the main gotcha.
Yeah.
Apart from that, everything's been very positive.
It seems fantastic for me. I mean, clearly I'm asking about my clients when I'm saying I've got this scenario, and it's a good pricing point, I think. Keeping things simple, because like you say, for some clients they don't need to have the portal for all the legal documentation and things like that. We like to keep things simple as accountants as well. So no, I really like that, and well, thank you for thinking of us as accountants. It's nice that there's some of you are. To be honest, there's a few vendors that probably aren't, but no, that's fantastic. I really like the sound of that. Yeah, so we'll make sure we mention that in the chat later on today, and I think there'll be a few people wanting to talk about that. I mean, what is the timeline at the moment with working with accountants? You said obviously in a couple of weeks' time you're going to be announcing this pricing point, but with the accountants portal, do you think you're going to be ready 6th of April for accountants to be ready to rock and roll with Patma and their clients you doing this?
Yes, definitely. So right now, a landlord can already have a Patma account, and they can share that Patma account with an accountant. and that accountant can have multiple landlords having shared their details, and the accountant can log into Patma and can switch between those accounts and access them all in a similar way to how I've shown today. Um,
Mm.
the only bit we're missing is the sort of dashboard that brings it all together, so you can nicely see here's a list of all the clients you've got access to. Um, so really, that's the bit that we're missing, and we're going to add. And yes, that's going to be there by April.
Yeah, that's good. So, I mean, I've had a lovely webinar here today because I am not getting any really technical questions because everything seems to be quite self-explanatory. So you've done a cracking job there, Simon. Um, I think we've covered the demo, we've covered the roadmap. How have you actually found the journey for MTD? Because I'd like to know more about that. You talked about 2021, did you say? You sort of really started dipping the toe in MTD.
Yeah, I think that's
How
when we
have you,
started the coding. Yeah.
yeah, so how many delays did you have since then? Was it one delay or two? I think it was two delays, wasn't it? That the revenue announced?
Oh dear, I can't remember now. Actually, let me just stop my screen share. Um,
Yeah, good.
so, very good question. So I remember one where they delayed it sort of very last minute. And that was a bit frustrating. We were sort of all geared up and ready for the launch. I think it was the following April, and then in the
Mm.
December they announced that they were actually delaying it by 2 years, and that was a bit frustrating. But I mean,
Yeah,
I do understand it. They have HMRC have done a lot of work on the API in that time, and their sort of support of software vendors. And back then, there were maybe a handful at most of software
yeah.
sort of vendors who were sort of looking ready, and now you've got sort of 20 plus at least. So in hindsight, it was probably the right call, but as one of
Mm.
those software developers who were ready, it's a little bit frustrating.
Yeah, I honestly had no idea just how much money had been invested by likes of yourselves and the other software vendors in being ready for that first MTD round. And yeah, that's the webinar for another day. But I think as well, one of the questions I wanted to ask was obviously the quarter updates are covered. How easy is it for a taxpayer to submit their tax return at the end of the year? Can they do that in Patma or do they need to link with another piece of software?
So right now, we don't have the end of year journey sort of finished in Patma. Um, it is in our roadmap. It is something we're working on. We don't expect that to be, or the first version of that to be ready until sort of Q2, but obviously that's still way ahead of when it's actually
Mm.
needed. The uh, but at that point, even then, it will be targeted at landlords who want to sort of self-represent, if you like, to do their own tax returns. So it will still be a relatively simple
Mm.
version of the end of year tax return. From an accountant's
It's
point of
worth
view,
pointing out as well for everyone as well that the reason why so many vendors aren't submitting tax returns at the moment is that when you fall into MTD, you have to submit your tax return through MTD compliant software, and the 2025 beta testing tax return, they've scrapped that build, haven't they? And the build for 2026 is completely different. So most vendors haven't even started looking at that yet, because that will
yeah,
still be the testing year. It's not until 2027 that you've got to file under MTD. So you would still be quite far ahead of that first filing deadline, a long time ahead of it. So that's good news that it's on the roadmap as well.
yeah,
But
yeah,
that's something no one really talks about, isn't it? They never really talk about the fact you're having to start this from scratch.
yeah. I mean, it wasn't that long ago that HMRC were saying that they would be providing, or at least an optional provision of that end of year tax return, similar to how they currently do
Mm,
on their own website. So when we first sort of started working for Making Tax Digital with Patma, the expectation was we would only be in year, and then HMRC would be providing that end of year option for most of our clients. And then they moved the goalposts. So actually, we're not going to do that. The software vendors, you can make the end of year stuff as well. So then we were thinking, okay, well, we'll stick within year, and then we'll let other people handle the end of year stuff. And I still think that's the probably the right approach for accountants,
mm.
and certainly for people who are looking for more advanced things. But we've just had so many people asking for being able to cover that whole journey without having to switch software, which I mean, I can understand it's confusing for a lot of people. So yeah, so hence why we are adding that end of year support as well.
It's great though that you have identified the need to work with more accountants because with MTD, obviously, they'll submit the quarter updates through Patma, and then if they wanted to use their own account software, let's say they've got foreign income or they've got sole trade income and dividends and things like that, it's a complicated tax return. They can still pull through that information on the API at the end of the year anyway.
Yeah,
So for a lot of accountants that I know, they're using software like Patma to just to keep things simple for the client for their rental properties, and then still using their own accounts package as normal. So yeah, I think it's really good. And where do you think MTD is going to be in 12 months? Do you think we're going to have a good year with all the filings working correctly at HMRC? Bit of an on the spot question, but
I think it's going to be a shining example of a perfect execution where everything comes together beautifully, and everyone is rejoicing at how much simpler life is now that everything's digitized and um, working smoothly for them,
oh,
or
that's a
something
clip
like
there.
that.
Robin, if you're watching this, that's a perfect clip. Thank you, Simon. Absolutely brilliant. I think at this point, thank you so much, Simon, for hosting this webinar today. It's been really interesting to see where Patma is and what you're doing and what your product is, and particularly love the roadmap working with accountants. So, if anybody wanted to get in touch with you to find out more or do a demo with you or just find out a little bit more information, how should they do that?
The best place to start is to look on patma.co.uk. So it's patma.co.uk. There are links there to sign up for a free trial, so you can try it out. There's also links to book a demo, and there's also contact details on there to drop us an email, and we're happy to follow up from that as well.
Lovely. I think, should we call it there, Simon? I think we've
Yeah,
absolutely smashed this webinar. Looks
I finished early.
fantastic.
That doesn't happen very
Yeah,
often. So.
finished early, but it's a good sign because normally I'm sat here with loads of questions to run through. But each time I had one, I was like, oh, he's covered that now. Oh, he's covered that now. So without further ado, if you are interested in knowing more about Patma, get in touch with Simon. Thank you very much again to Simon and for everyone in the team at Patma for getting ready for today and doing the demo and all the slides. Other than that, I will cancel the recording now and I wish you all a great day and I'll speak to you soon.
Thank you very much for having me.
Cheers, bye.